It's recording. Okay. Good morning. And my name is Carrie Muchaw, and I'm here with Deidre Doggett, and we're here to talk about yoga teacher training and what's new and different. And I've titled my yoga teacher training Transformational Yoga. And the reason why is because we are finding things that are able to be transformed. And our body is what shows us all of our patterns. So often in yoga, we find discomfort, we struggle with a pose, we find aches or pains, or we may find something that we just absolutely love. And what is that? What is actually happening? What is our body telling us in each one of those poses? Because what we're finding is there is actually a message. And it's a very common message, and we can translate the body language that is coming from it. And that's what's new and different, because your subconscious will actually manifest in your body when we do not shift a pattern. Because it's not enough to just know, I love this pose. It's not enough. I mean, you could just get so much more out of your yoga practice if you understood what it is that you love about it and what that is saying about you. And it often, what we are looking at is my greatest weakness can become my greatest strength. And when we move the pattern, whatever we feel is our weakness has the ability to be our strength and what we're here for. And so it tells us so much more than what we are understanding. I have been practicing yoga for, okay, hold on. My oldest son is, okay, 19 years. 19 years. And I have been teaching yoga instructors for over 5 years. And I love doing this. And now there's just so much more that can be brought into a yoga class, because when you take yoga, usually people either leave because they've tapped into a feeling and they don't know what to do with it. And so they're like, well, yoga's not for me. Or they'll be, oh my gosh, that felt so good. I'm not sure why. However, I just keep coming back. And often we will begin to feel things, and that's great. However, we don't know what to do with them. So we're here to explore some pose and kind of give you an idea of what's new and different in training. And so Dee, I'm going to let Dee introduce herself.
Well, my name is Deidre Doggett, and I am a physical therapist by trade, but I've been practicing yoga for not quite as long as Carrie, and did teacher training with Carrie in 2017 and started teaching at her studio since then, and have been just exploring more and more. And as Carrie learns, I try to learn along with her and take advantage of her insight and wisdom and everything that she has to offer. And I just have enjoyed these sessions that we've done up until this point, and I'm excited about doing another little pose analysis with her and you guys today.
Awesome. Okay, so the first pose we're going to talk about is tree pose.
Yes.
And so Dee has been loving the tree and living in the tree. And so first of all, so Dee, what have you noticed in tree pose?
Right. So what I notice most often in tree pose is kind of the patterns that we all adopt and attempt to use to execute the pose. But we attempt to create that balance and stability in the hips. And typically we'll see the straight knee or the locking out of the knee. And then overreaching with the hip. So with the leg that's up and turned out, we tend to try to push it out too far, and that tilts the pelvis forward, opens up the belly, and then we kind of slump into the upper back. So the things that I noticed there is that we're not as secure in the foot, our grounded foot, as we could be, and that the knee locks out. So I'm asking you, what does the knee locking out tell us? Because for me, physically, that turns muscles off. There's no muscle activation when the knee is locked. We're just relying on the bones and the ligaments to hold us up. So
Right.
we kind of
Yes.
we shut that off.
Yes. And anatomically, we know that if you put all of your weight into a joint, you're going to wear the joint out.
Correct.
And so, what does that tell us? Is the knee is about relationships. And so, if you lock your knee out and you put all of your weight on your relationships, what you said was that our muscles are not doing anything at that moment. And our
Mhm.
muscles are about power and about our strength. And what we're seeing in tree is your leg that you're standing on and the leg that you're standing on. And so when we lock it out and we put all of our weight into our relationships, we're not allowing ourselves to be flexible there. We're just like locking out is doing it only one way. I have to do it this way. I've got my relationship locked in place. This is what it looks like. This is it in my life. These relationships. And on your right side, it has to do with masculine relationships, and on your left side, it's going to have to do with feminine relationships. And so, what I'd ask is, when you lock your knee out, are you allowing yourself to be flexible in your relationships?
And I think that I see that a lot of people are uncomfortable when you unlock the knee, rather, you feel a little bit more, I would, I would say unsteady, if I could put words into everyone's mouths, and we feel uncomfortable with that. But that's where the growth and the learning happens, because we have the proprioceptive system of our body that kicks in. It's there, we just don't use it because we rely too heavily on 2 feet. But when we're on 1 foot, the body systems that we don't ever engage or engage fully have to start working, and we get uncomfortable with the work.
And so, and I think that's really profound, because what Dee just said is you get uncomfortable with the work. And
Mhm.
that's what we're looking at is, in order for us to uncover our patterns, we're going to have to get
Mhm.
comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it's only there for a moment. And what we're remembering is that you are on 1 foot and the bottom of your foot is about your understanding. And so when you have a locked out knee, then you're not being, what we got is commonly, you're not being flexible in understanding relationships. And instead of, like, we always commonly, people will have a relationship, this is the one way I'm going to have it, this is the way I'm going to get all of my support, because you have supportive muscles around your knee. So you have your quadricep around your knee, and so, and you have your hamstring around your knee, and so those are supportive muscles. That's between you and others. And if you believe that you're only going to have your support this one way in a relationship, you've got it locked in. I got
Mhm.
it locked in place. I got it. However, there's no, like you just said, you have no growth in that. And there's not room for growth and development and something new and different. Because we often say miracles happen every day. If we have no space for it, where in the world is your miracle going to land? Because locking a relationship in place means that your relationship will only look one way with this individual. And it's commonly whoever comes up on your plate. Whatever's on your mind is what's going to be going into place.
And then there's also this interplay between the knee and the ankle. And I'm sure everybody's noticed that when you're in tree pose or any balance pose, your ankle and your foot start to burn. It feels hot, it feels tingly, and that's your muscles working. That's work, that's growth. That's allowing those muscles to engage. And if the knee locks, we tend to collapse the middle of the foot. Where the arch of your foot is, that tends to flatten to the ground. When the knee unlocks or bends a little bit, that micro bend, we pull up through the bottom of the foot and lift the arch of the foot. And you can feel the four corners of your foot that we talk about so much better when the arch is stabilized by activating those muscles. With the knee lock, the foot collapses, and there's just that interplay between the two.
Yes, and the bottom of your foot, as we mentioned, it was understanding, and
Hmm.
it's also your foundation. It's secure in where it's secure in staying. And so you're mentioning the burning that comes on in the ankle and the foot, and in someone in your ankle and in your foot. And when your ankle and your foot begin to have a burning sensation, what we are engaging is the decree of remembering that I can stay and understand all of my support, because that's a supportive ankle that's going like this and and starting to swagger. And we are called on to remember our security. Often we use modifications at this point where you can use your other foot out if it requires that, so that you can engage it. Very often we bail out of a pose, we leave it because, oh, no, that's not working. And how many times do you get out of a relationship because you go, oh, that's not working?
Hmm.
And it's not the answer to just bail out. We're required to understand what is happening here. Am I being flexible, and am I secure in allowing myself to receive supportive relationships?
Hmm.
And the moment we are allowing ourselves to be secure, and I can stay to understand what is going on. And when you stay to understand, then you'll get your gold. And it's staying in it long enough to be and because often we'll go, man, this relationship burns. I'm out. I just got burned. Have you ever
Yeah.
heard that? I just got burned. I'm out. Did you get burned? I mean, and then it's what's underneath of it.
Hmm. And balance is always evolving. We never reach perfection with balance, with these balance poses. I mean, it's a continual work in progress, because one day your tree pose may be awesome and the next day it may not. What happened from one day to the next, who knows? I mean, it's kind of gives you an idea of, once you start paying attention to these things, it may kind of reveal other things to you.
And I'm going to give that a little bit differently, because I that's a definition of perfection. And in our divine blueprint, we're already perfect. So it is our perfect experience the moment that we allow ourselves to understand it. And when we
Hmm.
get the full message from it, well, then it was perfect. It was perfect. Every day it's perfect, because when you get the gold out of it, then you get to see the perfection in it, because it's carrying a message. When we discard it and throw it out and go, that's not it. That's not perfect, so it's not for me. That's where we get mixed up in the perfection. It is perfect for me, and as soon as I receive this message, it's going to be new and different, and it'll be glorious.
Where I see the most for us, I think there's this false idea of perfection that
Yes.
I think that's probably more so where my mind is thinking, because I think we have this understanding like, I'll be good enough, or I am good enough if I can do this pose, when no, you're perfect already.
Yeah.
That you're perfect as you are. This pose is not going to make you any more perfect, because if you see the look of frustration on people's face, I can't do this one. And that's not what it's
Exactly.
about.
Exactly. And
It's not what it's
that's people being hard on themselves. That's where we come into loving myself right. I love myself right where I am. I can love myself right where I am, and be gentle with myself right where I am until I can move from this.
Yes.
So we're reminding that in tree pose, to allow people to cue people to remember that love is their strength. Wow,
Hmm.
because that's your strength. And can you stay? Can you stay to understand what is happening in this pose for you?
Hmm.
And how can you stay? Does that mean that your other foot is required? You feel, your other toe has to go down instead of having it up all the way up on your leg, the bent knee, the opened up knee. Does it require that it come all the way up, or can you just go ahead? So can you meet yourself where you are and bring your foot down and find your balance and then begin to understand what is happening for you
Mm-hmm.
and where you can create balance in relationships. And
Mm-hmm.
I choose to have love as my strength. And that's the foundation of all relationships, and not being locked in. But yes, and so we're required to remember that, and so we're of a remembering in training of giving cues for people to ask, for us to ask questions as new instructors begin to ask questions. What are you noticing in this pose? Can you find your understanding, your foundation, your security? Feel your foot. Like Dee says, all four corners of your foot. Feel all four corners of your foot. That is your security. Can you stay in feeling your security? And if you come out, will you come back and show up for yourself? Because there's modifications and there's bailing out. Because
Mm-hmm.
like you said, all that. That's and there's a code behind that. I can't do this is a frustration in a relationship that you can't do it, you can't have it.
Mm-hmm.
Could you have it be completely different?
Or
Because you've got it locked in one way, that's why you don't have it.
have it another way.
Ah, yes, 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 yes.
So the other thing with tree pose is how you get your opposite leg into position. Like you said, are we in kickstand, or are you grabbing your foot and hoisting it all the way up towards your hips? And I have found that if you start in kickstand and actively slide the sole of your foot up to its, I don't want to use the word proper, a position your body, natural position, correct? Because a lot of times we just grab the foot and we hoist it up. But the activation you get throughout the whole body, the whole lower chain, doing it actively instead of passively, allows for those things that we were just talking about. It allows for the four corners to feel secure. It allows for the standing leg to activate so that you feel that activation from the moment your heel slides up all the way up through your pelvis and core. There's just something magical in that, doing it that way than just thrusting it into position.
Yes,
Figuring it out.
and and what that is when we thrust it into our inner thigh, we come into intimacy and relationships. And
Mhm.
that's intimacy and relationships. And intimacy just means being close to somebody. That
Mhm.
means, and we'll we'll just cram it in there. I'm gonna do this. And wow, how is that for a relationship that you're forcing it in there? I mean, and
Right. And then what the body does when you do that. So when you take your foot and you hoist it all the way up to your inner thigh, your pelvis has to rotate. Like I said earlier, your pelvis has to anteriorly tilt. And what happens most of the time is then the ribs open up and you lose your abdominals.
Mm.
Have you noticed that? I feel like I see that a lot.
Yes,
And
because
so when you don't have
people,
that core
yes,
activation,
students are
so
students are eager to put their foot up, and to get their foot up, what you're saying is that their abdominals start to come forward, and you lose the engagement of your abdominals. And that's where we're finding, where we're finding our in our third chakra, we're finding our choice and our will and our choice. So, and you have support, it's supportive, but it's supporting yourself by making a choice. And so, are you forcing your relationships, or are you allowing yourself to have a new and different choice? I can choose to be flexible in my relationships. I can choose my ease in relationships. I can choose to remember my secure relationships. And that's so profound because you're right. The abdominals just lose it. And that's where we're finding our choice of claiming it and being able to draw our support in and knowing that the support movement here is I'm supported in making my choice. And it's a remembering that I can make my choice. So I can choose my supportive relationships.
Yeah.
And I can choose to feel my love, my powerful love in my supportive relationships. I mean, you see how it all ties together. So in teaching this position with yoga teachers, it's going to be specific on what you're noticing. You're not, chances are in a class, you won't give all of these cues, but you'll begin to look around the room and notice what's happening as you set them into tree, and then express to them that they meet themselves right where they are and address what you're noticing. Are you noticing more people with their knees locked out? Are you noticing abdominal sags? Because a room will draw the energy of the decree that is in this pose that is required for class. These we've given all of them. However, when you look around the room, you're probably going to know what I normally notice is one or two things happening more than anything else. And we cue to that and that remembering and allowing people to remember. So yes, they're going to stay in this pose a little bit longer. Good news, they have two sides of their body, and it is going to require some stay, because and most people understand a stay in a balance pose because they understand that it takes a moment to get yourself secure and to allow the engagement. And I absolutely love engaging your leg and allowing it to slide up, and where it lands, you meet it right there and stay there for that feeling. I think that is just phenomenal. Instead of that, grab your foot and put it on. And the other thing that happens when they do that is their hip slides out. They shove a hip out. And and that's to create balance in a different way, which often reminds me of a mother that hoists her baby on her hip and throws her hip out. And we believe this is how we have to do it. And it's all putting everything onto one side. And so, and when you do that, is that truly balance, is my question. No.
Nope.
And so that's another piece that you're recognizing as well.
Yeah.
Any more gold in this pose?
Oh gosh, yeah. What else could we can talk about how the hands, we can have hands at our heart center, or we can take it up another level and extend through the arms. We can also talk about what the gaze does. Because if you're in a balance pose, the second you shift your gaze, it's make or break. How secure are you when your gaze changes? When your focus
When your focus changes.
Can you remain secure with a shift of focus?
Yes, absolutely. And being able to, through our eyes, imagine new and different. Or do you have one vision locked in place?
Yeah.
Because
we've always started there by, telling ourselves or students in the class to, find a soft gaze and focus there, create your stability. But is that where we're supposed to stay? No, are we locked into that one gaze forever, or do we have the ability through our growth to remain secure in good relationships and shift our focus?
absolutely, create new and different. Yes, and the expansion of your arms, when you lift your arms up and you expand, here you're feeling I always bend my thumbs and allow them to rest right into my heart center so that I'm engaged and that I can feel my love, and allowing myself to allow everything to come from here and following our heart, and arms lifted, you're expanding your heart space. And what I notice a lot here when people come to this spot, when they're lifting up with an extension of their spine and their hearts lifted, then they go like that. And what we're seeing there is when your shoulders are doing this, your shoulders are your burdens or your blessings. So if everybody's doing this, I mean, is it a burden to have your heart lifted? Is it a burden for your heart to lead you? Or are you gonna remember that you can slide it back down into your place of blessings? And so when I cue that in a classroom, I'm often gonna say to people, slide your shoulders down into a place of blessings. If you have your shoulders to your ears, you are empowering burdens. So slide your shoulders down and remember your blessings.
Mhm.
And then the other thing is you can play with their hands, and I've done this where your pinky rolls forward. And when your pinky rolls forward and lifts up and you feel the energy coming through your pinky, well, your pinkies are your dreams.
Oh, you know what that does is because you're externally rotating your arm and your shoulder, that tilts your shoulder blades back and allows that the dropping down of the shoulders. That's, yeah.
Awesome.
So what you've done is you externally rotated through the arm and the shoulder can more naturally drop back now.
Awesome. And then and your pinkies come forward because then these are your dreams, and you're allowing the connection of your heart to live your dreams.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so much in poses. And again, in a classroom setting, you're going to address just what you're seeing and touch on it. And what you're going to find in a private session, because in training, we set people up so they can have private sessions with people. In a private session, what you'll discover is whatever somebody's talking to you about, because they always give you side talk or why they're there, you'll recognize that their body is doing exactly what they're speaking into. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life, or I can't do what I desire to do, or I'd love to be doing this, but I'm doing this until, well, that's a dream. That is not living your dream and following your heart.
Well, I like the messages because we've always said, relax your shoulders, relax your shoulders. And, we've heard that, we've said that. But then I'm always asking, like, well, because what does it mean? Why? Well, it feels better when you do make these corrections, but it's so much more interesting to have it bring you some direction or some insight and some guidance into your practice and every day.
And a deeper understanding of your body, because we were divinely created, and I imagine every creation there was meaning. There's a reason why. And our bodies were set up to give us messages. And when they give us messages, are we listening? Are we going to go get a pill? Or going to have somebody surgically correct us, or have somebody, and that has been the go-to for a long time. And then now you hear doctors will say, you should be doing yoga. I get that. People will come to me, well, now the doctors are saying I should do yoga, but I don't really know why, but I'm just going to do whatever they said. The doctor may or may not understand the underlying in it. However, we're here to bring up the underlying. And when you shift that, you find that you're revealing the pattern, you're shifting your pattern, your life changes, and your body feels better. It is the bookends. And I just love that. I love the little bookends. Awesome. All right. So we're going to wrap this up, and training starts, and I'm actually hosting training at Yoga on the Brazos this time, which is a studio that I used to own, and Janet has offered to allow me to host training there, and it will begin January 17th on my website, carriemuchaw.com. You'll find more information on training dates, and I'm super excited about that. And I've also decided that at the very end of the training date, on that very first week, that January, the 23rd and the 24th, I'm opening those 2 days up to experienced yoga teachers to come take a 2-day training to learn the sacred body language and be able to add it into their classes so that they can translate and find the decrees. And so I'm doing a 2-day training on that, January 23rd and 24th. If you'd like more information on that, I'm going to go ahead and post this little number on Facebook on my YouTube channel, and they can contact me. So thanks for your time. Bye.